Welcome, Middlers, to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I take you on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration. I am a Reiki master teacher, a spiritual and business mentor, and of course, a psychic medium. And I am here to share my story and help you tap into your extraordinary abilities. Join me every Wednesday as we dive into the realms of intuition, energy healing, and all things mystical. Whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just dipping your toes into the magical waters, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiration, guidance, and a whole lot of lessons and laughter along the way. Let's get started. Hello, Middlers. Welcome to episode 297. My name is Stephanie. I am the medium in the middle. Welcome back if you are a middler. Welcome if you're new or you're just finding me. I share my journey into mediumship from day one, episode 1. So my podcast is designed to help you on your spiritual development journey. I know when I first started learning I could speak to spirit, learning I could feel energy, I felt so alone. I felt crazy. I didn't know where to turn for information. So my podcast is designed to support you with your development. So if you want to start at episode 1, the first 10 episodes are usually very helpful. And then you can cherry pick through with whatever you need help with, clearing, boundaries, cool stories. I have almost 300 episodes now to help you through. But if you're a new listener, I recommend going back to the beginning because that will probably help you out the most. Today's episode is not a lesson episode. I do really like to share lesson episodes, again, to help you save time on your spiritual development journey. Things that took me years to learn. I hope my podcast helps you not take years to learn. I hope that it takes you months or even weeks. But this is just a cool story that freaked me out. And honestly, I don't get freaked out very often, if at all. I'm a medium. I'm used to a lot of weird things happening in my life. It's like, yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah, that happens every day. And even in this situation, it's about how someone found me. I get messages like this every single day, and I have for years. I've been doing the podcast since 2019, so it will be turning 7 years old this year. And I just know that my podcast finds people when they need me or when they're developing or when I have something that will help you. But this particular story kind of left me dumbfounded, where I actually needed to decompress after work. I don't often need to decompress after work, but I even had to call a friend and be like, you got to hear this one. Like, I need a little staring at the wall moment. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today on the podcast and sharing that story. Recently on TikTok and Instagram, I had one of my videos go viral. I haven't had that happen to me before. It is super cool, super overwhelming. So many notifications, and I grew thousands of followers on TikTok and Instagram. As a result, it has completely booked me up until April for virtual sessions. Reiki courses are filling up very quickly. So if you are interested in learning Reiki, the March training is full for level 1. The March Reiki level 2 is March 28th and 29th. The April level 1 is April 11th and 12th. That only has 2 spots left. And the May Reiki trainings are also up on my website. There is no April level 2 because of the Advanced Reiki Practitioner Masterclass happening on the 25th. So your options for level 2 are March or May. There is a mediumship practice circle this Saturday, February 28th. I cannot stress enough, all mediumship levels are welcome. If you want to practice your mediumship, you are welcome in the practice circle. You will be paired with another practicing, developing medium where you will give and receive a reading. And it's really great to connect with other developing mediums so that you can see what other people do, see what might work for you, try out some new things. No one is expecting anything, so don't worry. There is 2 circles in March as well. There's one on a Friday night on March 13th and another one on Saturday morning on March 21st. As always, I will leave all the links you need down below in the show notes. If you are local to Banff, March 1st, this Sunday, I am teaching a Reiki and restorative class. at Flow State Yoga. So it is a 75-minute restorative yoga class with hands-on Reiki. The class is guided by me and the Reiki is provided by me. I do this class a few times a year and it always ends up selling out. So if you're in the area, come join me on March 1st. You can register with the link down below as well. And if you are interested in following on my socials, I'm at Medium in the Middle everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Substack. All of those are linked down below in the show notes. But let's jump into this week's story. And buckle up because this spooked me out. So I'm not sure what you guys will think about this. Like I mentioned earlier, I get messages quite literally every single day of people telling me how they found my podcast, how it randomly started playing in their car, how randomly they were subscribed to me, how they just found me on their For You page at the perfect time, or I popped up on Instagram, or all of a sudden they were following me and they didn't even realize they had followed me. And I always answer like, oh, my podcast does that. It'll find you when you need me. You probably need to find my podcast. I probably have an episode for you. You're probably going through some type of spiritual development journey and you probably are needing help. And my podcast is finding you to help you along that journey. So sometimes people will just send me a message and say how they found me. Sometimes it's because they booked a session with me and then they'll say, hey, can I tell you how I randomly found you? And we usually have a little laugh and I say, oh, that's so cool, and go on with my day. This time, however, I did not have a little laugh and I did not go on with my day. I was shocked, to say the very least. So this session that was booked was a normal distance Reiki session. It went normally. She told me at the beginning why she booked the session, what she was having problems with. We did the session. At the end, we were kind of putting pieces of the puzzle together and I was giving her some feedback. And then she asked the telltale question, can I tell you how I found you? And I said, yeah, I love to hear how people found me. So this client lives in the States, and I forget what state she lived in. My mind went blank after this story, but she lived in the States. I'm in Canada, Banff, Alberta. So she said to me, I'm in the States and I don't have any interest in Canada or Banff. I'm not out there searching for it. It's not something really in my realm. I'm an American in America, not thinking about Canada all the time. She said, then all of a sudden Canada started coming up everywhere. Canada and Banff, Canada and Banff, Canada and Banff. And she was like, why is Canada and Banff coming up everywhere? She was like, not that I don't care. She was like, but why is this getting my attention? And then she just had this feeling that she had to come to Banff and she had to meet someone in Banff. And she said the feeling was so strong that she even told her partner. She said to him, hey, we need to go to Banff and there's someone I need to meet there. And she was like, he already kind of thinks I'm crazy. So he was just like, yeah, whatever. We need to go to Banff. To the point where she said they're coming this summer to come to Banff because she had such a strong feeling that she had to come to Banff. This was before she even found me. Then she says they're out for dinner with her partner's friend. So it was like a couple. So it was a couple friend and then them two. And the couple was saying how they went to Banff and how they had such a great time. And Banff is so beautiful and Banff has great fishing. And they should go to Banff and they would love Banff. And Banff, Banff, Banff. And she said that was so odd because they had never talked about Banff before. This couple had never talked about Banff. She was like, yes, my partner likes fishing, but they were talking about Banff and fishing and going to Banff and we would love it. And she was just like, why am I all of a sudden Canada and Banff and Canada and Banff and Canada and Banff? So then she said she was driving home from work one day and she was listening to a true crime podcast. And she said it was in the middle of the true crime podcast. And all of a sudden, the true crime podcast switched to my podcast. And she said, all of a sudden, your podcast was playing. And she couldn't switch it because she was driving. And she was like, what the hell is going on? I was just listening to a true crime podcast. And now there's this woman's voice. And she couldn't switch it. And she said, as soon as I heard your voice, I knew it was you. She's like, I know that sounds really weird. She's like, as soon as I heard your voice, there was a familiarity of who is this person? So then she's forced to listen to my podcast episode. And when she gets home, she is trying to figure out what happens. And she realized she is subscribed to my podcast. And she said, Steph, to my recollection, I have never searched you. I have never subscribed to your podcast. Maybe I did it one night in my sleep. Maybe I did it when I was delusional. Maybe I did it when I was sleeping. I just have never searched you. I don't remember subscribing to you. I did not subscribe to your podcast. You appeared in my library. You started playing in my car. Now, that story alone happens a lot. I often just appear on people's phones. I often just start playing in their cars. I often appear in their library, even though you didn't subscribe to me. I often will just start playing when you're listening to another podcast. My podcast has a mind of its own. I am a medium. Nothing of this surprises me. If I'm meant to find you, my podcast will do the work. It's like its own little gremlin out there popping up in cars all around the world. So still at this point of the story, I was like, okay, kind of normal for me. And then she says, she's a teacher. So she said, on Friday, I was at work and my student said, I'm going to Banff this weekend, miss. And she was like, what is going on with Banff? Why is everyone telling me about Banff, talking to me about Banff? Now my student is telling me he's going to Banff this weekend. Again, they're somewhere in the States. I wish I remember where she told me she lived, but not near Banff. Now, I've been doing this podcast for, again, almost 7 years, almost 300 podcasts. So I have a lot of episodes. And she said that she was at the episode where I just started talking about distance Reiki. And I have an episode about distance Reiki where I talk about how I didn't believe it at first. I didn't really understand how distance Reiki worked. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And in this podcast episode, I talked about how I did a test on distance Reiki to prove to myself that it worked. So long story short, I did 50 test people. Again, I'm a Capricorn. I love structure. So I did 10 people I knew, but I had never done in-person Reiki on before. I did 10 strangers from the internet. I just opened it up to my Instagram, who wants a free Reiki session. And then I did 10 people that have had in-person Reiki with me before. I did a distance Reiki session on them. And those 30 people all had great feedback. It worked. They felt me. They feel better, yada, yada. And at the end of those 30 sessions, I was like, those 30 people are lying to me. So I just opened the floodgates and I did 20 more sessions. And I still remember writing down number 48. And it was like, the person said it worked again. Maybe 48 people aren't lying to me. Maybe I have to start believing this. I laugh now because Reiki is my full-time job. I've done thousands of sessions now. But again, I love a skeptic. Talked about that a few weeks ago. I was a skeptic. I still am a skeptic. I need to be proven that things worked. So I did it 48 times in order for me to understand. Maybe my brain doesn't fully understand how this works, but it works every single time. And I just have to go with that. So she said she was listening to this episode where I was talking about how I didn't believe distance Reiki at first. And I had to prove to myself that it works. And she was like, this made me like you even more. Because she said she had never, thought about Reiki. She barely even knew about Reiki. She was going through a lot of health problems, which is why she ended up finding me. And she said all the doctors say that she's normal. All her tests come back normal. Doctor after doctor after doctor after specialist, normal, normal, normal. Nothing's wrong with you. But she has a laundry list of problems. Then she started going to an acupuncturist. And the acupuncturist made her a little bit better. And I believe, again, from what I remember, she said that her acupuncturist might have mentioned, hey, this might be energy in your body, which got her thinking about other alternatives to figuring out what was wrong with her. She's like, if the doctors can't figure it out, if this is kind of helping me, maybe I need to explore energy. Maybe I need to try Reiki. Then she found me. My podcast started playing. Then she heard this episode about me talking about how I was skeptical of distance Reiki. Then she felt the same way. And then she was finally convinced, okay, I have to, book a session with this girl. So she said, so I booked a session with you. And she said, you're busy. So I booked for March and April. Then she said, when the little boy told her on Friday that he was going to Banff this weekend, something just told her to start checking for a cancellation. Now, I very rarely get cancellations. I don't hold a cancellation list because that's how rarely I get them. And if I do get a reschedule, if I reschedule an appointment, that appointment will just be booked. So I don't hold a cancellation list. If someone reschedules an appointment, I will either wait for it to just book on its own, or I might just like put a post up on Instagram and it'll be gone in a second. So when I rescheduled this appointment, it was 2 days prior to the appointment. And I was like, oh, like it'll fill. I'm not worried about it. I'm not even going to post about it. And within like less than a few hours, it filled. It was like a distance Reiki that was rescheduled. It was a distance Reiki that booked. I was like, perfect. I didn't think anything of it. So when I got to her appointment, I kind of forgot that she got that rescheduled appointment. So she was like, when my student told me on Friday that he was going to Banff this weekend, I knew that I should start looking for a cancellation because I knew I couldn't wait to meet you. So I started looking and then I saw that cancellation. I grabbed it. So she was kind of like, I'm going to see you for the next 2 months in March and April because I already booked my appointments. And she was so pleased. Like, she was like, I know I met you for a reason. I know you're going to help me on my healing journey. I already feel better. My shoulder's feeling better. I already feel lighter. I feel this and that. And she actually started crying. She was like, I just know I'm meant to meet you for a reason. And I know it has to do with my health and healing. And honestly, I felt the same way too. Like when I was doing her Reiki, we were just piecing together so many things. I was like, oh, you were supposed to meet me for sure for this. And she was already pretty aware of things, like things that she was like, I think it's this, this, and this. And I was like, I think you're right. And then I was like, what happened on your birthday? She was like, oh, this and this. And I was like, oh, and what's going on with your mom? And she's like, oh, this and this. And I was like, okay. And oh, what's going on with, and she was like, she was already there. So I was like, I'm here to just help you along that way. So I said to her, I'm like, I'm very happy that you have like 2 more appointments booked. Reiki's not a magic wand. I can't fix everything in an hour, but I was already happy that she was feeling better, and she was like crying and she was like, I just knew I had to meet you. I heard your voice, and now seeing you and now having distance Reiki. I've never had Reiki before, but like this is all just so divine. And there was just something about like the Canada and the Banff and the going for dinner with a friend and them talking about Banff and fishing and her student going to Banff. I know that Banff is like a very popular destination. Like we are a tourist spot. We have millions of people that come here every year. But it's still a small little town in Canada, And it was just all of these things and then just her whole experience and what her energy was doing and how the session went, and she was crying, and I was like, yeah, you were supposed to find me, and this stuff still blows my mind, but this one was really like, holy shit, like holy cow, you had to find me. And then it just started like me feeling like, oh my God, like I do have an impact on people. I am helping people. And you just like, it's overwhelming. Like I said earlier, when I'm going viral right now and people are just saying all these really nice things to me and like how I help them and how their podcast and how they don't feel so alone. And wow, hearing their story in somebody else just like makes them feel seen. And it's overwhelming. And this was just one of those experiences where I was like, people tell me this every day. And I don't know if I've become numb to like, yeah, my podcast just plays in your car, no problem. But all the extra layers of this story really smacked me in the face. So I have a few more episodes that I want to share about how people found me. Like there was one where I came in a dream to someone. They knew they had to find a girl named Stephanie. There was one where like years ago, someone has been looking for some healer. I hate that word, but their words, healer Stephanie. And just like the way that sometimes people find me, I'm just like, holy cow, like, yeah, we had to meet. I've had people fly to Banff to meet me. So this is just all to say, when my podcast finds you, it does not mean you have to book an appointment with me. It is probably for my podcast. If you feel like you need to book a session with me, fine, follow your intuition. But it is probably for an episode. It is probably for a lesson. It is probably for me to help you not feel so alone. It is probably for me to help you with boundaries or clearing or energy or mediumship or development. And there are so many free resources in the 297 episodes that I already have out. One of my biggest problems was, if I want to talk to anyone, it costs money. And it does cost money. If you want to talk to me now, I get it. It costs money. If you want my one-on-one attention, if you want me to handpick the information from 297 episodes that are going to help you and tell it to you in a condensed hour session, yeah, that costs money. But you can do that all on your own. There's a search engine, medium in the middle clearing, medium in the middle energy, medium in the middle spirit. Just search whatever you need and all the information is there for you for free. I have Substack if you prefer to read. I have Instagram if you prefer videos. So if you just happen to find me, if I just happen to start playing in your car, welcome. I'm glad I found you. I love these stories. They don't often make me, go wide-eyed, but this one did. And I'm very interested to see, what happens with me and this client and how our relationship grows and what becomes of it. I'm sure I'll keep you posted. But that is one crazy story of how someone found me. And yeah, that really got me. So thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please press subscribe. I release new episodes every Wednesday. As I mentioned, all the links you need to book with me are down below in the show notes. I offer all my sessions virtually via Zoom and in person here in Banff, Alberta. If you want to register for a Reiki course or a mediumship practice circle, those will all be linked down below as well. But until next Wednesday, Midlers, when I see you in your ears, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.